From the Times Center in New York City, City University Television, in association with the New York Times, presents a TimesTalks series with editors and writers of the New York Times. Today's presentation, Emmylou Harris, A Conversation with Music.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Carol Olson Day of the New York Times, and I'm delighted to welcome you to this exciting TimesTalks. I'm so excited about tonight's guest. We're really so happy to have her here. She's an outstanding singer-songwriter, and over her 40-year career, she has recorded more than 25 albums, in addition to so many with her fellow talents in the music business. She is so esteemed in her industry that she has won not 1 or 2 or 3 Grammys, but 12 Grammy Awards and the Billboard Century Award. In recognition of her remarkable career, she was inducted into the Country Music Hall of Fame in 2008. Her latest album, released just yesterday, is Hard Bargain, for which she wrote 11 of the 13 songs, which is a special treat. You'll hear much more about Hard Bargain and our guest in just a minute, but first I'm delighted to introduce tonight's moderator. He's currently assistant editor of the Sunday Arts and Leisure section of the Times. He also reviews poetry and other books for the Daily Culture section. From November 2008 to November 2010, he wrote frequently about having an aggressive case of prostate cancer, and then about leading a post-cancer life on the Well column on nytimes.com. And the column struck such a chord in readers' lives that it was frequently on the top of the Times' most emailed list. He's also the author of 6 books, including a book that merges cultural criticism and memoir called Sing Me Back Home: Love, Death, and Country Music. His latest book, What a Difference a Dog Makes: 6 lessons on love, life, and healing from a small pooch. It was published this past November by Doubleday. So please join me in welcoming Dana Jennings and our very, very special guest, Emmylou Harris.
Such a good crowd.
Wow, nice room.
Thank you everybody for coming, and hello Emmylou.
Very nice to
Good to
meet you and chat with you.
I'm going to ask you the big cosmic question first.
Oh dear.
Well, it's not that hard. What does it mean to be a serious veteran artist in 2011?
Well, first of all, I guess you're lucky if you're a veteran and you've been doing it for a long time. I don't notice anything different in 2011 from too much of when I started. I mean, for me, it's always been kind of a song at a time, a project at a time. And I've been fortunate enough to just work with great people, you know, who are inspiring. And so there was always kind of something in the wings to do. Sometimes you whine and say, I'm too busy. But the alternative is, you know, what you want is to be working if you love your work. And I still love my work. I'm very fortunate. I'm feeling like knocking on wood right now.
That's always a good thing. Well, in your new album, A Hard Bargain, I think a lot of artists in their early 60s play it safe. You know, hasn't Rod Stewart done like 50 albums of standards or something like that? And your new album is just fresh and adventurous. And how did that happen? You know, what made you decide to do an album that was almost all songs that you wrote?
Well, I suppose I didn't really have any other songs waiting for me that were just insisting. Like my last record, All I Intended to Be, there were a lot of tunes that I'd kind of meant to cover over the years that I hadn't gotten around to. And also, you know, it's good to have deadlines from the record company, who I love my record company, by the way, None Such Records, they're terrific. Yeah, and they, are you from None Such? You know, they sort of say, Emmy, you know, it's kind of time. It's not like I have to put out a record every year or I sell millions and millions of records, and so there's this insistent that I have to have product out there. But it's good to have somebody kind of saying, you know what, you should be thinking about, you know, your next record. And so since I had done the covers and sort of revisited singing and performing with some of my old pals on that record, and it was kind of a patchwork quilt of getting together with old friends and singing songs that I kind of wanted to do, a few songs that I'd written. I thought, well, I suppose it's time to put on the writing hat again, and this is relatively new for a career of my length. You know, it's only been really in the last, since about the late 90s that I decided to, so about the last 10 years or so, maybe a little longer, that I really tried to put my pen to paper and write. And so I thought it was maybe time to do that again, or at least try. So really, that was what I did, and it's just a leap of faith. You just kind of say, well, I'll put myself to this task and see what happens.
How long did it take for an album's worth of songs to come together?
Well, this particular time, I guess I started a year ago in the summer. Was it 2 years? I can't remember. Anyway, I just set aside 3 months to do nothing but write, not to go on the road and not to get working on anybody else's project, and sort of lock myself away in a room in my house to get started. And I got about maybe half the songs at that point. And then I went out later, the following year, I went out to work with Will Jennings, wonderful songwriter. We share a publisher, the great Lance Freed, who loves to put people together on a creative level. And so that was 3 songs. And then once you kind of get started, even if you're not locking yourself away, sometimes though, you get loosened up and maybe those creative juices start to flow. I don't write all the time. I'm wondering if it's something I should try to put into my schedule, but I probably won't.
For you, by the way, I'm not related to Will Jennings. Do your songs tend to emerge as scraps of language, or do they emerge as melodies first, or does it depend on the song?
It depends on the song. I've had different, on this album, you know, a scrap of, you know, language, sometimes just a phrase will start it. There were a few songs on this album that I realized I kind of got the first line first, which is always good, gets you off and running. And then some songs like Lonely Girl came from just playing a chord progression on an open tuning guitar, which helps me, somebody who doesn't really play any lead. If you have an open tuning guitar, it makes you sound like you know more chords than you do. And you might not even know the name of the chord that you're playing, but it suggests a melody, or it might suggest a lyric to you.
Lonely Girl, it's funny you mentioned Lonely Girl.
Yeah.
I like a lot of the songs on Hard Bargain, but Lonely Girl is the song that I've been playing over and over.
Oh, really?
And what does it mean to write a song like Lonely Girl when you're not a 16-year-old lying on your bed with the tears dribbling down your cheeks?
Well, Lonely Woman didn't sound as good.
Right.
It didn't roll off the tongue. So, you know, once again, that was kind of suggested about the melody, and also just being reflective and thinking about, you know, I was approaching at that point my 64th birthday, and you start, sometimes you can't help but think, God, I've really been around that long, and the time does seem to go very fast. I don't know if it's the case for most people, but there are times at the end of the day, and I'll think, now, did that happen yesterday? Was that today? You know, it gets a little convoluted. So it was more of a reflective song, and even though it sounds a bit weepy, you know, like poor me, it really was a kind of a celebration too of the fact that my life has been extraordinarily rich in blessings and wonderful friendships and caring for a lot of people. I don't have the relationship that people think you must have, that long-term relationship, and you must, have a marriage, and you must be in a relationship to fulfill yourself. I don't think that's the case for everybody. But I think there's a little bit in all of us that thinks there's perhaps, someone that should be there. But I think that's just part of the human condition.
I'm sure this was a coincidence, but another song I really like on the album is Big Black Dog.
Oh, yeah.
And Big Black Dog comes before Lonely Girl, and Big Black Dog is about a stray.
Yeah.
And in a sense, Lonely Girl is also about being astray. And I was just wondering whether that was a conscious connection or just...
I don't know. I think after Lonely Girl, I wanted to go into, on the sequence, I just wanted to go into something more up-tempo. It was probably, there was not a whole lot of thought put into it about, although I do like the idea of something lyrically moving into another. And I will say that the dogs are my most important relationship right now.
Well, I agree wholeheartedly.
There's because one of the great joys that's come to me in the last few years, back in 2004, I started a dog rescue in my backyard in memory of my canine companion that had traveled with me for 10 years on the bus and slept in my room. He was with me all the time, and he passed away in 2002 rather suddenly. And I think part of the grieving process for me was putting my energy into, he was a shelter dog. I had rescued him, and so I just decided that I would take my big flat backyard and build some dog runs. And oh God, the real estate agent freaked out.
The heck with it.
So we did that. It's called Bonaparte's Retreat. Bonaparte was the name of my traveling companion. And we set it up for 3 dogs. Of course, we've gone to 6 at this point. But we can't really get more than that. We're very small. And to talk about the song, though, we started fostering for Nashville Humane, which is a low-kill shelter in Nashville, where Bonaparte had come from. And but I kept thinking about the dogs at the Metro Animal Control, which people call the dog pound, and I didn't really want to think about it. But one day I decided I would go there, and we had a vacancy. We had a dog adopted, and so I decided I would go and pick a dog. But of course, there's so many. You feel kind of like Sophie's Choice. How do you choose? And I pretty much asked them which dog they were going to kill next. I mean, you might as well use the word, because that's what they do.
Right.
And that's what, as a society, we are doing until we change things. And they just pointed to this black lab mix of indeterminate age with gray around her muzzles, very placidly there in her cage. And she had been there for past her allotted time. I think they were kind of fudging because she was such a sweet dog. And I thought, well, she probably won't get adopted. She's older. She's a black dog. She doesn't have any kind of Disney dog qualities, Everybody wants a cute dog or a puppy or something. So I took her with the intention of finding somebody else to take her. And
that's what you say.
Well, I did. I actually did. I thought, well, because I actually did have at that point. My mother had 2 dogs, and I had adopted a dog through the rescue earlier on. So we already had dogs in the house, but Bella is her name, and it took about 2 days of her standing and looking into the kitchen door that was glass with that look in her eye for her to come into the big house. And she actually, she and Kita, my other rescue dog that has become my dog, is a big yellow dog. They travel on the bus with me. When I tour, they go everywhere, and they're fantastic companions. They're great travelers. Not every dog, I think, is a great traveling dog, but these dogs are. And it's just, I wish I had known earlier in my career how great it is to have a dog on the road. I would have had one from the very beginning.
Well, when I was listening to Big Black Dog, I thought of it as kind of a nice sequel to Johnny Cash's Dirty Old Egg-Sucking Dog. Which it's just kind of nice book.
I might cover that someday.
That would be, I'd like to hear you sing that. And of course, what my wife and I did, once our sons graduated from college, was filled our house up with dogs. We have
How many?
we have three. We
Only
have,
three?
well, I know,
Okay.
but we have Moxie and Harry and Bijou. But
Yeah, they really, if you can open up your heart and your home to a dog, I mean, I'm just one of those believers, and sometimes I have to calm myself down from being, because not everyone is ready for a dog, even though you know it will make their lives better. And
well,
you
of
don't,
course,
you don't want to be one of those people who's going like trying to convert them to your particular religion, which is
Right.
the Church of Dog.
Right.
And
Emmylou and I are really aiming for a dog reality show here. If anyone has any connections.
but having this dog rescue has been a great joy for me. It's also extremely heartbreaking because once you get into it, you become aware of the enormity of the problem of all the unwanted dogs and cats, perfectly healthy animals that are put down just because no one comes to take them. It's a matter of educating people, spaying and neutering, shelters trying to be more aggressive about foster programs. I mean, all of us can do better, but that's kind of my campaign that I'm on, and I have this day job, that, where I can go out and sing and earn money to pay the vet bills.
So, I know, sometimes you look into the eyes of a dog, and there are just certain dogs you see that just kind of kill you in a good way. But there are also songs like that kill you in a good way. Excuse me. And when you were first learning about country music as a young musician, what were some of those first songs that really?
You mean dog songs?
No. Well, let's see. There's Old Chef.
There's oh God, Old Chef. Not fair.
No.
And of course, Old Blue. That was a good. I remember. Let's see, Ian and Sylvia did that, I believe. Big
But
fans of theirs.
what were some non-dog songs
Non-dogs.
that spoke deeply to you when?
Well, when I first started getting into music, I was in the high school, I guess, when the folk revival happened in this country. And my father was in the Marine Corps. He was stationed in Quantico. He was a air sea rescue and HMX helicopter squadron. And we were, lived off the base, but we were close enough to Washington, D.C., where we could get WAMU from American University, and Dick Seri that has this great show from 7 to 12, and I started, and of course I heard Joan Baez and wanted to be Joan Baez, and got a guitar and taught myself. So, all those beautiful child ballads that she did, and of course I got turned on to Bob Dylan. So I was just learning anything that had 3 chords that I thought had a lyric that somehow, even though I didn't know anything of the world, I was very sheltered and had never really suffered at all. In fact, I wrote a letter to Pete Seeger, that he actually wrote me back saying, I want to sing and I want to, sing these songs, all these folk songs but I've never suffered and I don't feel I have any credibility and I don't want to be an imposter, and when you're young, you're just so fervent about everything and so serious. And he wrote me back and he just said, basically, I'm paraphrasing because I don't have the letter, don't worry.
Thanks,
It'll
Pete.
happen.
What you've described yourself in the past as a collector of songs. And what are some of those songs that just really pushed you toward becoming a singer? To getting out of yourself and trying to interpret those songs.
I'm trying to think of a specific song. I mean, obviously, I mean, Dylan's, all of his material. I remember especially when Another Side of Bob Dylan came out, and it was like, I don't know what he's talking about, but I completely relate to it. You know?
Yeah.
And I would work up songs like To Ramona and sing them at little hootenannies in the local clubs, and of course doing you know, Kumbaya. I mean, you know, it's beautiful. And All My Trials. You know, like, what trials had I had? But I suppose we're prescient, and we know that they're coming.
Yeah, they're
So that, and I was just so taken with the simplicity and the poetry and the beauty of those folk songs. And it took me a while to get into country music later on. You know, working with Graham, I became a believer of that music and embraced that music. But before that, it was just mainly and current folk songs that were being written besides Dylan. You know, I was a big fan of Buffy St. Marie and Ian and Sylvia and Tom Rush. I mean, there was just so much happening. And then, of course, Dick Sary would play the old folk blues like Mance Lipscomb and Bucka White, and you're just so, the simplicity of it and the washed in the blood feel of it. And, of course, of the Carter family, too. I didn't really count that as country.
Right.
But I know now that they were sort of invented the whole thing.
Yeah,
but you know,
you might say that.
You just don't. You know, you're just learning all this stuff. All these pieces are flying at you, and it's so exhilarating and so exciting. It was really a sort of set me on that road of loving music. But I really didn't think that I would make a career of it. I was studying to be an actress, actually.
Okay.
When I went to college, I was on a drama scholarship to the University of North Carolina at Greensboro, but I only lasted there 3 semesters before I followed a bunch of hippies to who were singing music to Virginia Beach and started singing in the clubs there. So, I mean, you know, circuitous route, always.
Well, you mentioned Washington, and last week Hazel Dickens died.
Yes.
And did you ever have a chance to sing with Hazel?
Oh, yes. In fact, Hazel, I'll tell you a little story. When we had the first band, the Hot Band, after, you know, I had got a career and I had a record contract and I was out with this great band, someone invited us to their houseboat for a party after a show. I think it was Seattle, Washington, and we were there, and this girl put on this record by Hazel and Alice. And I just nearly dropped I mean, my jaw just dropped. Because, I mean, that was some serious washed in the blood stuff. You know, their harmonies. And they were doing Hello Stranger and Green Rolling Hills. And she gave me the record, because I guess she had to, because I was just... And so, and of course, I ended up recording both those songs. I mean, Hello Stranger was a really pivotal song to me in my recording career, of bringing really traditional stuff like that Hazel was doing, but also it was a Carter family song, and putting together with the electric instruments and the acoustic instruments with that band and that great recording situation that I had, and of course Green Rolling Hills, a beautiful Utah Phillips song. So, but then later on, Hazel and I, in fact, this is also strange. Hazel used to work at a store in Georgetown called the Phoenix Shop that had all the wonderful imported, you know, Mexican embroidered things from Guatemala. And I bought my second wedding dress there. From Hazel.
That's
but
nice.
We actually did get to sing together. And she, there's a fellow named Warren Hellman in San Francisco who puts on a free bluegrass festival for people in San Francisco and beyond, in Golden Gate Park. He's been doing this for 10 or 11 years now. And his favorite singers are Hazel and myself. And we always close the show. Hazel and I would come out and sing something together.
Oh, that's wonderful.
And I knew she was ill. So the last time I saw her, it's always the first weekend in October. So that was the last time I saw Hazel.
Was there a song that the two of you liked to...
We usually did Green Rolling Hills,
okay.
since I stole it from her.
I mean, what's it like to reinterpret or interpret songs by these other singers that you love. I mean, you know, you're not afraid to go for the big guns like, you know, Orphan Girl by Gillian Welch or Sweet Old World
Well,
by...
see, no, she hadn't recorded Orphan Girl at that point, so nobody had heard her version.
Okay.
But it's true, I have covered songs that people know, but I don't know, I just had this sense of that it was okay to make it your own, because there's a quote, I like to use this quote, I don't know who said it, but that style is a product of your limitations. So anytime you tackle something by someone else, it's bound to be different. You hope it's going to be good, but you're going to give a different spin on it. I think that's why, you know, tribute albums are kind of interesting because you hear someone else doing something that you're used to, that artist, that's their material, and then you hear somebody else giving a completely different spin on it. So I think they can be very interesting. So I've just been paying tribute to artists my whole career.
I mean, do you feel like, you know, let's say, you know, when you used to sing Green Rolling Hills by yourself, I mean, did you feel in a sense that, you know, Hazel sitting on your shoulder a little bit?
Well, not really. I mean, I was always grateful to her, and I mean, Hazel and I were such completely different singers. And also, by the time we had done what we did to it in the studio, and the musicians had added certain colors and certain, you know, things that, to me, it became a different portrait of the song. But, you know, I was always grateful to Hazel and loved to hear everything else that Hazel did. But as an interpreter, you just have to not even think about, you can't be intimidated by that. And I guess you have to have a certain amount of arrogance to feel that you can actually sing a song that somebody else has done. A lot of times, you know, I was lucky enough to be introduced to someone like Rodney Crowell before he ever made a record. So I was like a kid in a candy shop. I had all those songs that he had written, sometimes hot off the paper, you know, to be the first one to hear it, the first one to learn it, and the first one to record it.
Although I feel like when I hear you sing one of those songs that you know, I don't even want to call it a cover, because it's not what I think of as a cover, but in a way, both when you're singing one of those songs, it seems like kind of the unusual self-effacing manner that you have for someone who's been in the music business for so long.
What?
No, it's like, you know, the way you sing harmony, and the way, you know, just to me, giving a nod to these other wonderful artists and not worrying that somehow the song is going to overwhelm you.
Oh, you mean singing harmony? You mean?
Well, both ways. But, you know, picking, you know, choosing to, you know, to sing Sweet Old World.
Oh, yeah, well, you know, it was kind of hard not to sing that song. And I do, at that point, I was not writing at all when we were doing Wrecking Ball. So basically it was up to Daniel Lanois and I to come up with material, and he was suggesting things. And I of course, in the last few years before we did that, just completely, you know, fell in love with Lucinda, everything she did. Had all her records, and there were several of her songs that I wanted to do. And I suppose at that point she wasn't quite as well known as she is now. We were all kind of, you know, swimming around in the same soup, so to speak. And so I didn't think twice about, you know, I didn't worry about doing the song, even though I loved her version, although we ended up doing something very different. And I think it was Daniel who slowed the song way down, and he also brought Lucinda in to play guitar on it. So he really was really important to how we came up with something to make it our own, you know, our own reading of the song.
Well, I think one of the cool things about your voice is that, you know, even when you're not singing a necessarily gospel song, that there's something really deep and hymn-like about a lot of your songs. Even, just going back to "Lonely Girl" on the new album, or the song for Kate McGarrigle. There's an unusual depth there, and I mean, and do you feel like they're hymns sometimes?
Oh yes, there's certain songs. I mean, I feel that a lot of the songs I do are what I kind of call secular hymns, because they deal with our whatever you believe. We're on some kind of journey, and I think we're all connected in searching for something, and trying to be the best people we can be along the way, and most of the time not having a clue. But every once in a while, there's a light that shines on something, and it's those moments, that you kind of cling to. And of course, music for me is like my church. I really feel that music is, I can't say exactly how it's molded me and taught me and made me who I am, but I really feel that those melodies and those words, whether they're my own or other people's words, but I have to quote something that Will Jennings said, and I read it in an interview, because he's a Southern guy, Will, and he was being asked, I guess, about the song we wrote, "Sweet Old World," and that's sort of, there's a certain spiritual, tip of the hat to that. And he said, well, Emmylou and I are children of the South, and there's a hymn is never far off. But I wasn't really raised in the serious hymn-rich tradition of the South, the Baptist and everything. I was a low church Episcopal, and we're not very melodic.
But you're deep.
But I think somehow it's just by osmosis. It must be all that fried food or something.
Well,
I don't know.
I was just, today I was watching over and over, there's a wonderful YouTube video of Emmylou singing harmony with Iris DeMent on Iris's song "Our Town," and when I listen to that video and watch it, with you singing harmony and Jerry Douglas on dobro, and and Iris.
Oh, is that from the sessions from the sessions in Scotland?
I'm not sure. It looks like you're in a living room.
Oh yeah, that was great. That was the sessions that we did with the Boys of the Lock, I think.
And
the transatlantic sessions.
Okay.
Yeah.
And watching that video, I almost feel like I'm watching a church choir. And the other cool thing about it is the way you watch Iris as she sings lead on that song. I almost feel like you're almost looking out for her. You kind of acting.
Well, I'm watching her to see what she's going to do.
Well, I like my version better. It's almost like you're her musical big sister.
Oh, I don't know. It's just you're just there to add something. Like if I were a lead guitar player, I'd be trying to play behind her vocal.
Okay.
And do those little things that I've had the grand pleasure of having people like James Burton play behind me, or Albert Lee, and so when you're singing harmony, to me it's like another melody, but it has to be a secondary melody. But you're not really thinking that way. It's just you're literally following somebody else, because the most important thing is that you slip right in there with them, and but they're taking you, they're leading you there. So. And of course, I love that song, "Our Town."
Yeah.
I at one point I was thinking about recording it, I guess, and that's another great thing. If you want to record a song and then you get the chance to just sing harmony on it, you've almost had the chance to kind of record the song, because you want to be a part of it.
Right.
You want to make those. You want to hear those words. You want to feel those words in your mouth, whether you're singing harmony or whether you're doing the lead part. It's like diving into something beautiful.
Talking about harmony a little more, there's a lot of Louvin Brothers songs in your catalog over the years. Did you ever get to sing with Charlie?
Yes, absolutely. Do you know what?
Oh, that's wonderful.
I sang with Charlie when I was first invited to be on the CMA Awards show. It was maybe 75 or so. Anyway, my first album, which had "If I Could Only Win Your Love," which was a Louvin Brothers song. And they asked me to perform the song, and I asked if Charlie could sing the harmony with me. And so he did. So we sang the song. And then this is kind of a bittersweet story, but back in September, they were having the Americana Awards in Nashville. Well, it's Americana Month, and they have an award show, but there are also performances all over the town. It's a great time to be in Nashville. And Charlie, just recently lost his battle with pancreatic cancer, but he was still out there. He'd been touring, opening for Lucinda, and he was playing at a little club downtown, and they asked me to come and sit in with him. And it was like 10:30 at night. I said, Charlie, it's too late for me. What are you doing out? And he was just on, I mean, the same wonderful gentleman, full of good humor and just, accepting of where he was in his life and still loving the music and still giving it 110%.
I mean, that must have.
And we sang If I Could Only Win Your Love.
That's great. That gives me the shivers. I don't know if it did you, but that's really nice. Talking about singing harmony or, kind of, subjugating yourself to the song. When you look at young artists or young female artists today, where it's a lot of them anyway, what matters more is really clamping down on becoming famous, whatever that means. If you were talking to Lady Gaga, for example, well,
why would you want to talk to me?
No. Well,
to get some fashion advice.
See, no, she's, she's playing at the Ryman. No. But what, I mean, if you could strip away the veneer, what would you say to her, versus being an artist and being famous?
I think she knows exactly. I think she's doing exactly what she wants to do.
Right.
And I don't think I could give anybody any advice. I mean, if somebody came to me and asked me, I don't know. Even so, I don't know what I would say. I mean, for me, it is about serving the song. It always has been. But then it has been relatively easy for me. Once the door was open for me, I just had so many great people, a manager who was almost like a father to me, who really understood kind of what was important and set the tone for priorities, and a brilliant producer who walked me through making records and respected my opinions and encouraged me to, be creative and to speak up if something bothered me. And wonderful musicians who became great friends, and a really good record company who got behind me. I think it's got to be really hard starting out. When I think back now, to those days, how lucky I was. And so, it sounds a bit Pollyanna-ish, but you really have to. For me, it was about the love of the music.
Right.
And you got to have a little bit of an ego. I mean, you would have to. But for me, it's all about the music and also the collaboration. Whether it's the people in your band making music that way, or in the studio, when you get to collaborate with other artists, and just the completely endless combinations of musical magic that can happen when people get in a room, because everyone has some kind of unique gift. So it's never boring, and it's always exciting. So I would hope, because I've gotten so much joy out of that and so much satisfaction, but I can't say that that's what everybody should get out of it. For me, it's just, that's been, I might try to convert people to getting a dog, but I can't really tell them that this is the way you have to.
We could have Lassie Gaga.
Right. You can't say to somebody, oh, you're doing it all wrong. Right. Because everybody has to find their own way. And
who are some of the mentors or collaborators who, when you think about it now, that you especially treasure?
Well, I mean, I think that there's one true collaborator and mentor, which was Graham Parsons, and because I was just a kind of a Joan Baez wannabe, you know, when he came across me playing in these little clubs, I was doing a few country songs, but basically it was as a joke. And I admitted that to the Country Music Hall of Fame before they let me come in. So really, he's the one who turned me onto country music, got me singing harmony, which somehow freed me from trying to be Joan Baez, and I was just focused on something else, and my voice became something else, and also generously put me, you know, on the stage and really shone the spotlight on me, so really I can't imagine my career or my life, you know, if I hadn't had that chance meeting with him.
That's what we're all looking for, right? Is that there's always that chance meeting that we don't realize until we're
we never
older.
know. Sometimes I think we're too focused on what we think should happen.
Right, right. Would you like to play a couple songs?
Oh, sure.
That would
Okay.
be.
So a little story, I guess, about this song. It kind of fits into our discussion about the dogs. You know, my dog shelter, and in the course of working with animals, I also met homeless animals. I met an extraordinary man in Nashville. His name is Charles Strobel, and he's been working with homeless people for 25 years. He was a Catholic priest who, there were so many homeless people showing up in his parking lot of his church, and he was feeding them peanut butter and jelly sandwiches that one day it just occurred to him that that was his congregation. So with the blessing of the church, he left the church and has been administering in a secular way to the homeless population of Nashville, and really an extraordinary man, very inspiring. And he got this idea that the homeless, there's such a stigma, even if you recovered from homelessness. People somehow think it was your fault, and it's very hard for them to re-enter into society. And so he thought of a place where they could learn a skill would be to work with animal rescue, because animals are totally non-judgmental, and it would give them some healing experiences, as well as experiences that they could perhaps feel strengthened enough to go out and face people who can sometimes be judgmental. And so I started getting together with Charlie and a bunch of other people, and we're trying to actually put together quite a large no-kill shelter for dogs and cats outside of Nashville that would also be a place where the formerly homeless could come and learn skills, and also where kids that are aging out of the foster system with no place to go, and a lot of these kids end up homeless, where they could actually live in a residential program and work with homeless animals. This is a long roundabout way of saying that the song was kind of inspired by getting to know Charlie and his work. But actually, the song was started when I had just gotten back from Metro Animal Control, and I think I was thinking about homeless dogs, but then I thought, well, actually, it's the same for dogs and people. You know, they're kind of thrown away out on the streets. So this is called Home Sweet Home. I live out here in the wind and the pouring rain, somewhere between 14th Avenue and Main. In the summer heat, the winter's freezing snow, you see I got nowhere else to go. Got no home, sweet home, into this world some are bound to roam. they don't see me here, and if they do, they wish I would disappear. I guess they know way down deep in their bones it could be them out there looking for a home. Sweet home, into this world some are bound to roam, and it's a long, hard road we've known on the way to home, sweet home. Oh, to have a place to lay my head, a crumb or two for my daily bread. Perhaps someday a kind soul will come along, help me to find my way back where I belong. Back to home, sweet home, into this world some are bound to roam, and it's a long, hard road we've known on the way to home, sweet home, sweet home. Oh, God's children looking for home, and it's a long, hard road we know on the way to home, sweet home. Thank you very much. One of the great inspirations musically for me has been Kate and Anna McGarrigle. And I was fortunate enough to, well, I was a fan, and then I was fortunate enough to get to know them and tour with them and write songs with them. It's right there. But what I really loved about Kate and Anna is their company, hanging out with them. And some of you might know that Kate passed away a year ago in January after a very long and valiant fight with cancer. She really wrestled that sucker to the ground, boy. She was a force. This song was just kind of my farewell note to her. So it's finally come. You have left this world, but we'll miss our Kate, our darling girl. We held your hand, kissed your lovely brow, and bid farewell. You're sailing now, free from the pain. You laid that burden down, but your strong and giving heart will surely be your crown. As you slip the surly bonds of earth and sail away, perhaps we will meet again somehow, someday. Until then, there's nothing we can do but wait to see once more our darling Kate. nor sure where you have gone, but in that place, I'm betting there's a better song. But we've all known down here the taste of joy and strife. You were the sweetest note in the chord of life. Now you've slipped the surly bonds of earth and sailed away. Perhaps we will meet again somehow, someday. But if there was one name I could consecrate, it would be yours. It would be Kate. Thank you. Thank you, Dan.
So wonderful.
Thank you so much.
Wonderful.
All right.
That song about Kate McGarrigle is just, that's one of those hymn-like songs. You know, it's...
Well, you know, it's funny. Kate was such an extraordinary musician, and if you're not familiar with their work, the few records they made are really masterpieces. And I do want to say that None Such is it's just out now, I think. I just got a copy of it. They've reissued the first two albums that Kate and Anna did, along with, and this is extraordinary, that they have the original demos. A lot of it is just Kate at the piano, and it's really exquisitely beautiful stuff, very, very special. But you know, I thought after, you know,